Coming up, we'll go on anchor deep in Loch Eriboll. This sea state requires quick, fast and decisive reaction. We will sail around Cape Wrath into Kinlochbervie. We spontaneously decide to take the more exciting inshore route. I would not venture into a place like this with a boat of the size of Polaris. I didn't trust my hand-eye coordination skills. Anyway, time to try it out. Come heaven or hell. I'd actually like some langoustines.
People come up to me and say, "Oh, I went to Scotland once, it was raining." Course it was fucking raining!
After a lot of considerations of different route options and the weather, we decided to make a long leg today into Loch Eriboll, which is here just before Cape Wrath. We'll go on anchor deep in Loch Eriboll, where we should be protected from the swell. Tomorrow morning we will sail around Cape Wrath into Kinlochbervie. We left today about 9:45, just with the start of the ebbing current going out of the Sound of Hoy. We are in the mouth of Hoy, with the island of Hoy just south of us. The tide is about to turn in our favour, and it should run in our direction for a long time on today's passage. Today's forecast is bang on, only the rain doesn't materialise, but we won't complain about this. The wind blows a steady force 5 to 6 from an easterly direction, kicking up a good swell from behind. Catherine welcomes the opportunity to improve her skills in driving Polaris in more challenging conditions. This sea state requires quick, fast and decisive reaction when a wave tries to push the boat off course and beam on to wind and waves. She quickly realizes that female multitasking is not working here anymore. Full concentration is required, which gives me a welcome break in peace and quiet. It is 1:30 and we are not at half point yet. About 2 more miles to go. In the distance, we can just about see the infamous Cape Wrath, which waits for us tomorrow. The wind has freshened up and started backing to east. We had a period of 23 knots of through wind, which is a force 6, and now it's gusting again between 18 and 21 knots. The waves have built quite a bit, but the closer we get to the land, the less wind I expect. All in all, we enjoy a nice day out in the sun with great sailing conditions. Just as we think it's all over, Mother Nature serves us yet another challenge. As we approach the entrance to Loch Eriboll from the northeast, we encounter an area of high and steep waves. They are about 2 to 2.5 meters high and very short. Well, had I read the pilot book more carefully, I would have been aware of the potential of confused seas off Whiten Head, even in good weather. The reason for these often confused seas is the wind and wave action from the east, joining a strong east-going tidal stream along the coast from Farrate Head, in an area of relatively shallow water. Given the situation with wind and waves from the east, we choose a sheltered anchorage deep in Loch Eriboll, The peninsula of Orkney, about 5 nautical miles in, seems perfect to us. It has anchorages to the north and south of the narrow isthmus linking the island with the mainland. On inspection we find that the northern anchorage is full of marker buoys, for mooring or for lobster pots. Either way, no good for anchoring. So we proceed to the south anchorage, where after a few attempts we find a sandy spot close to the shore in the otherwise kelpy bay. So here's my plan. Our trip tomorrow to Kinlochbervie is 42 nautical miles, which should take us about 7 to 8 hours along the safe offshore route in deep water, about 3 to 4 nautical miles off the shore. There is also an inshore passage, very narrow, between the rocks and the mainland, which can be sailed in calm conditions. But as it is our first time here, we'd rather play it safe. We have spring tides with strong currents, and that's why we want to leave Loch Eriboll at 8:30, so that we are at Cape Wrath at slack water when there is no or minimal current. With a start in Loch Eriboll at 8:30, we should be at the Cape around 11:30, which is high water Dover. This means that we'll have the tide against us in the morning, but we'll have it in our back after rounding the Cape. We should arrive in Kinlochbervie in the late afternoon around 4 or 5. The inshore weather forecast from the Met Office this evening looks good for tomorrow. Wind northeast, force 2 to 4, waves of 1 to 2 meters near Cape Wrath, and mainly good weather. With the planning done, we are ready for a good rest in a calm and windless night, well sheltered deep in Loch Eriboll. Today we are rounding the notorious Cape Wrath, the most northwesterly point of mainland Great Britain, for the first time. For navigation, rounding Cape Wrath, as any major headland, requires careful planning. The tidal patterns of Cape Wrath are complex, and the confluence of strong tides make it a dangerous place in bad weather. It is totally exposed to the north and west, and often subject to very strong winds which kick up a huge and dangerous sea in a very short time. If in doubt about the conditions at the Cape, the pilot book strongly advises to keep a distance of 3 to 5 nautical miles. Its fearsome sounding name in English is derived from the more benign Old Norse words for turning point, highlighting its significance to the Viking explorers. The area is mostly owned by the Ministry of Defence, which uses the rough and rugged terrain as a survival training area for British and international troops, and operates a live firing range extending 4.5 nautical miles into the sea. Therefore, before leaving this morning, I contacted the MOD's Firing Range Coordination Centre to check for any live firing activities here. Luckily, there are none scheduled for today. However, as we approach the Cape under engine and in windless conditions, the sea presents itself like a mill pond. And that's why, very much in contrast to our usual practice, we spontaneously decide to take the more exciting inshore route between Duslic Rock and the rugged cliffs of the Cape. We also see another boat taking the same route, which reinforces our confidence, although it may not always be a good idea to rely on other people's judgment. But today, the conditions are perfect and we are rewarded with a stunning experience. There are tens of thousands of birds breeding here on the cliffs each year, including puffins, razorbills, fulmars, kittiwakes and guillemots. This also makes it a site of special scientific interest and a special protection area. Meanwhile, it is late afternoon and we approach the small fishing harbour of Kinlochbervie. It is the only really protected harbour on the mainland's coast between Ullapool in the south and Scrapster just south of the Orkneys, and so it is often used by yachts to weather a storm or to wait for a favourable weather window. We were warned that the leisure boat facilities, which consist of a single floating pontoon, might be fully occupied. But as we arrive, we find we are the only yacht here. The harbour, despite its narrow and shallow entrance, is accessible at any state of tide and provides perfect shelter from any direction. Good morning, it's Sunday, Cynthia's birthday, the 6th of August, and we're ready to go today. We will leave Kinlochbervie for a couple of days and go into an anchorage. We have to wait for the delivery of a new camera body. That's also why the sound quality is not as usual here. We hope that this will arrive on Tuesday and we can use our microphone again, and that will be perfectly fine. There's not a lot of wind today, no wind actually I think, and slightly overcast, but the weather should be fine today. It's only a 6 or 7 miles trip to go to that anchorage, so all is fine. On the AIS I saw that there is a fishing ship coming in. It's just coming in behind us through the narrow entrance of the harbour, and that's why we're waiting for a couple of minutes. Our destination is a small anchorage known as Tarbet Lagoon. Whilst the electronic and official paper charts would not suggest a suitable anchorage there, we spotted the place on our trusted Antares charts. It is described as one of the few places in the immediate area that offers good protection from swell, except in brisk westerlies. It has a very pleasant, isolated feel to it. The weather looks settled for the next few days, and so we want to explore this place. Frankly, without the detail provided on the Antares chart, I would not venture into a place like this with a boat of the size of Polaris. But following the recommendation to enter from the southeast and to look for a large area of sandy bottom in the center of the bay, we find a perfect spot to drop the anchor in pristine clear water. We always had a drone on board Polaris, all along, but so far it had always been piloted by one of our sons. Me, being from a generation that grew up outside in the woods, instead of playing video games, I didn't trust my hand-eye coordination skills. Well, and perhaps crashing a few self-built RC gliders as a kid did not help my confidence either. Anyway, time to try it out, come heaven or hell. Here come our first ever drone shots. Bear with us, we'll improve, promised. We have prepared a lobster pot and we're gonna set it here. I think this is a nice area. There have been some pots around as well, and we hope we might get some. I'd actually like some langoustines, but we see whether we catch something. We have a fat old mackerel that I caught on Saturday. It's been in the fridge ever since. It's Monday today, and yeah, we're gonna try and set the trap and see what we get. Whilst pursuing the hard work of a fisherman, I remembered some fellow sailors mentioning a small family-owned seafood restaurant in Tarbet known as the Shore House, which should be just around the corner from our anchorage. After a lot of persuasion, we could even convince the owner to take our booking, and so we hopped on Fred and made a landfall for this magic place and enjoyed a delicious seafood dinner. We are lucky enough to drive back to Polaris between two torrential squalls before we enjoy a cozy evening and a calm night in this enchanted hidden anchorage. Probably see more sunsets than rains like this, that strong. Wow.
People come up to me and say, oh, I went to Scotland once, it was raining. Of course it was fucking raining! What do you think Scotland does? The fucking Pyrenees! Take a raincoat, you stupid fucker!
90. Join us next time when we find out what we caught in our lobster pot, and when we discovered that actually our camera body worked fine but the external microphone was toast, and we continue our journey to Loch Eriboll where we witness the local Highland Games and Catherine climbs Mount Sullivan.